when we live in a sex positive world, people get the option, the chance to be who they want to be, to explore if they would like, to not have sex if they would like. So it's just giving people the freedom of choice. A couple of practices that I've been doing that really, really helped me throughout the years are, number one is sexual meditation.
Okay.
Yeah. Number two is positive sexual affirmations. And then number three is journaling. Masturbation is extremely important for many reasons. It allows you to maintain a healthy version of your sexual identity. So when you do engage in sex with a partner, you feel sexual.
The big silence, empowering personal experiences, inspiring compassion, and healing lives. We are no longer silent. We are here.
The Big Silence. The Big Silence.
Well, welcome to the Big Silence podcast. We've never had a podcast like this. So I'm going to tell my father, who listens to every one of our podcasts, you might want to turn this off.
Oh no. Hi, Daddy. You're going to love this one.
All right, Nick. Dr. Tara is like saying, no, you got to listen.
I think it's going to be great. I'm so excited for
I
this.
am so excited too. So how do you become a certified sexologist? And I want to talk about your background and where you came from, and then how that led to where you are today.
Shall I start from the beginning?
Yes.
So I'm originally from Bangkok, Thailand. Have you been to Thailand?
No.
I feel like you would love it.
I think so.
From like knowing all about you on the internet.
No, don't.
Yeah, you will really love it. And like
I
Thai
believe
food,
that. Yeah.
Massages.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I grew up in Thailand and I went to an all-girls Catholic school.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling that just to say like where I'm coming from in terms of the setting of my developmental years.
Right.
I grew up in a very conservative environment. And I know people think like, oh my God, Thailand, like they're so sexually progressive. Have you seen Hangover?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, but that's Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not Thailand for Thai people.
Mm-hmm.
Thailand for Thai people is very conservative. And when it comes to sexual communication, silence is golden. So never talk about sex. Don't even mention it. You don't talk about it anywhere in your family, with friends, or even with lovers. You just don't talk about sex. So that's the context I grew up in. Plus going to all girls Catholic school, wearing uniforms where you have to cover your knees or else you get hit on the hand. I had a lot of internalized feelings of shame regarding sexuality and my body.
So did that make you want to really explore it because you were restricted from it?
Yeah. That theory makes so much sense where when you are in a restrictive environment, you are more likely to rebel. Mm-hmm. So yeah, in my teenage years, I'd rebel and, I had terrible sexual experiences. Well, actually my first sexual experience wasn't too bad. It was with a girl because I went to an all-girls school. So
what else are you going to do?
What else are you going to do? In middle school, I thought I was a lesbian. So with that setting in mind, like, the reason why I pursued this career was because of three different factors. One is my natural inclination to sexual curiosity, which I have just talked about. And the second factor was in grad school, I was studying interactions in relationships. And I learned that within long-term relationships, there's one universal issue that everyone in the world will experience at some point in their relational life. That is a sex issue. So I just really wanted to be a part of a solution of such a big problem because there's a big problem in the world and it needs solving.
What is a sex issue?
Anything from internalized sexual shame, the inability to orgasm, the inability to have a conversation about sexual well-being with your partner, the anxiety that comes with communicating your true desires or kinks or exploration, even physical issues like erectile dysfunction, vaginismus, inability to get wet, inability to stay hard. Like there's just so many different issues from various factors like physical, mental, emotional, so that it makes sense that at one point in everybody's lives, they will experience a sex issue.
Are you in a relationship now?
I am. Yeah, I'm married now.
Yeah.
But I have had multiple, everything from in my 20s, I've never had an orgasm.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that it was common until I studied this topic. Then I learned, oh, it's super common. Most women cannot have vaginal orgasm unless their clitoris is being stimulated.
Right.
But in my 20s, I didn't know. And I never had proper sex education that focuses on pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
So if your sex ed is like, don't get pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
you're never
scared.
gonna know. Yeah, like what pleasure is until you explore yourself.
Right. So do you think that sex ed is being taught as you have sex to procreate?
Yeah, 100%.
Nothing about pleasure, nothing about the mental health benefits of an orgasm. What are your thoughts on that?
There is no education on pleasure.
Yeah.
Especially on how our sexuality and our sex life is so intertwined with other wellness factors like mental well-being, like you said, physical well-being, relational well-being, emotional well-being. When you have a great sex life, it exudes into every aspect of life. And when you don't, it really shows. When people really truly struggle with a sex issue, for example, like porn addiction, or a woman who has never had an orgasm and feel like she's forced to have sex with her husband, like that shows in every other aspect of life.
So back to sex issues. Let's talk more about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I truly believe, like, you know, through teaching thousands of students as well as having hundreds of clients, that when people experience deep emotional, physical, mental issues related to their sexuality, it affects other aspects of their life. Like work, they are distracted because they don't feel great about themselves and their relationship. The relationship and the family also are affected clearly with the presence of the person who experiences this issue. And then I think overall, as the person showing up in different spaces, if their issue is something that they consistently think about, it's going to affect the way they show up.
Okay. So do you think there's any kind of trauma that leads to sex issues? One question. And second question, if someone then has a sex issue in a relationship, how does that come through in their relationship?
Yeah, those are great questions. Studies show that traumas, different types of traumas, are significant predictors of experiencing sexual difficulties in adulthood. So if you've had sexual assault happening to you when you were younger, molestation, or even other types of trauma like religious trauma or family trauma, all of those things can manifest in a relationship in various ways. So one of them can be sexual anxiety, like can't even have sex, they freeze up, they don't feel pleasure, their whole body is tense. Or it can show up as like erectile dysfunction or the inability to stay hard. It can also show up in the way you may want to have a ton of meaningless casual sex. I'm personally not against casual sex if it's from an empowered place. There's a lot of college students that are exploring and they think it's fun and it's connecting for them to like have fun through casual sex, which is totally fine if it's mindful. But at the same time, I think that there are studies that show people with different types of traumas may become very sexual in a way to gain power back from their trauma.
Let's take it, we're females, and think of someone in late teens, early 20s exploring sex. Number one, the stigma around having multiple partners, but also, and I always use myself as an example, growing up in a trauma family with a mother who was
Mhm.
schizophrenic and being very promiscuous. And I think for me, it was this escapism. What is the difference between a young person exploring sex and not having the stigma as a female from wanting to explore? Because I feel like it's a natural part of life is to, have sex.
Yeah. It's
But
very natural. It's as natural as eating.
Yeah, which is there's such a stigma around it.
Mhm. And it's very unfortunate that the stigma lies mainly with women.
Yeah.
We're always getting the short end of the stick. Because if a guy has a lot of sex, like, oh, he's like attractive, he can get it, he's a baller, he's the man. But if a woman has a lot of sex and with a lot of partners, like she's a slut, she's a whore, she's a bitch, right? So that stigma, I think, is slowly changing. It's been gradually changing since, people fighting for women's rights and the ability to have like contraception, as well as more sex education and more the media actually helps significantly in reshaping the idea that sex can be fun and explorative, and it doesn't mean that you're a bad person, a bad woman because you sexually explore. So I do think that we're gradually changing to a more sex positive world, which is really beneficial to everybody. Because you know what happens with guys who have this Madonna whore complex where it's like, I only married this girl because she's a marriage material. She hasn't been sleeping around. But then realizes 2 years in, like, well, my wife doesn't have sex with me. Why? Like, I want her to be a freak in bed and jump on me and, do reverse cowgirl. Like, no, because you married her because of the the innocent factor. Why do you change now? So to me, it's like all of these things are just terrible for both women and men. When we live in a sex positive world, people get the option, the chance to be who they want to be, to explore if they would like, to not have sex if they would like. So it's just giving people the freedom of choice. I'm not someone that's pushing everyone to have a lot of sex. I'm someone who is pushing for people having freedom of sexual choice. And I think it's very important.
What's a healthy sex ratio if you're in a long-term relationship?
First off, it's whatever that you're happy with, right? Because some couples are happy with once a month. Some couples are happy with 3 times a week. So it just really, really depends on the dynamic between those two people. And when I do like coaching or help clients, then I learn of their desired ratio or frequency. Then we do compromise, right? Because it's usually not the same. But research found that couples that score the highest in sexual satisfaction and relationship satisfaction have sex at least once a week. So once a week, whenever I tell people this, they're like, that's doable. I'm like, yeah, it is. Once a week is doable as long as you prioritize and spend time on it. Because we tend to forget, especially in a long-term relationship.
Right. Okay. So, but you're in a long-term relationship and you want to prioritize sex, but what are the other things that you have to prioritize? I was just on a phone call this morning with a friend and we've, been in a long-term marriage, this and that, and not a lot of sex going on. Love the partner, all of this. You got children, you got this, you got work and this. And so I think when I have these conversations with people that I know that I'm close with, it's, the stress. And then all of a sudden you're just supposed to have sex.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, we've been arguing and nitpicking all day, or we've been this and that. And then at night, it's just like, all right, let's have sex. But where's that connection? And so how do you find that when you're living life, we're adults, we got a lot going on. How do you find that connection to be attracted? You love your partner, but how do you become attracted?
I hear this a lot. I'll have clients that go, I love my husband dearly, but I'm not in love with him. Like, I'm not looking at him and wanting to jump on him or even find him attractive. This is the hard truth. There are so many, I would say millions of couples that are in long-term relationships that actually don't find their partner attractive.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's difficult. And other issues that you just mentioned too, like what if you've been bickering all day? What if you've been running around on errands and kids all day? Like, how can I just get in bed and open my legs and, just have sex, right? No, you cannot, because it won't be pleasurable for you. When it comes to cultivating the kind of relationship that allows for sexual exploration, you need to prioritize emotional intimacy.
Yeah.
And there are many different methods of increasing or engaging with your partner to cultivate emotional intimacy. For example, how long would it take for you to surprise your partner by writing, "I love you so much" on a Post-it and leave it as a surprise?
Oh my God, I would love that.
Yeah. Wouldn't you love to receive that?
The simple things. When my husband's like, "You look beautiful today," I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh, thank you."
What he did is one of the strategies of emotional intimacy.
Yeah.
The thing is, when we are on autopilot mode as adults, as parents, we tend to forget emotional intimacy. So things like that, complimenting your partner, leaving a cute love note. And people are like, "I don't have time for this." I'm like, really?
You do. If you
It
have
takes
time and you want to
5
have
seconds.
sex later, you have time to write a little post.
If you're on social media scrolling,
Yeah.
you have 5 seconds to write a note for your partner.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think people just make excuses for their own lack of priority for their partner, which is something that I feel like I experience sometimes, and I have to really take the accountability that, like, this is my job. Like, this is a part of being a good partner, a good wife, a good lover, is to make sure I spend a little bit of time each day to do a little bit of things to enhance our relationship and our connection. And he does the same thing. And if he ever slips and forgets, I remind him.
Yeah.
I say, "Hey, where's that text?" Right? Because communication is key. Communication is really key to a long-term healthy relationship. So yeah, back to having a great sex life, of course you need emotional intimacy.
And that's my thing too. And Bobby, we have been trying to get back to that. And that's one of the things that I always say. I'm like, I just like a little hug, a little, "I love you," a little passing by in the kitchen, and this, like, it's those small little things, because we all have so much going on.
So much.
And it's, and I believe that those partnerships and relationships and long-term, like, I wouldn't change anything in the world than having my husband for 11 and a half years. We've been together. So Friday, it's my birthday, and we're going to Palm Springs.
Yeah.
Just us. We don't have kids, but we got 5 dogs, no dogs coming, just us. Okay. So what are some tips? Because we want to re-engage in our intimacy. So someone who might be like us, where we're just like, I travel a lot for work. He's busy with work. We got this, that, and the other excuse. And then we're just tired. And I'm coming off of a month of doing events and traveling. And what help me?
Yes. So what I would recommend to you is something that I also recommend to my clients is a combination sexcation.
Okay.
Yeah. And a combination means that there are different sexual activities to help you stay engaged with each other without having vaginal penetration sex each time. Because that's not the only way to have sex, right?
Yeah.
So I would say, first off, have a more sexually charged conversation at dinner. So this could be like, remember last time we had sex? Like, what were some of the highlights for you?
He'll be like, I don't remember.
If he says that, then you can probe more. Like, no, like, think about it. I really want us to have this conversation. Checking in, sexy check-in is important. How are you feeling about our sex life? Is there something that I can do, that you can do, that we can do together to make sure that we maintain this connection? Because it's so important to me. So having this conversation, and also like, okay, if you're able to explore with anything, okay, and you have to say, I won't get offended, because or else like people won't share their true desires. But like, if you can explore with anything sexual, like, what would be the one thing you want to explore?
Do you think there's a lot of people in relationships or not, or that hide what they they want?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. I would say like at least 50% of my clients are hiding their true desires.
Like, what are some desires that people are hiding?
Okay. One of them is something that is taboo.
Okay.
So like if they have foot fetish, for example, they might not want to share. If they have splashing kink, like
I don't know what that is.
like they were like playing with
I'm
food.
gonna be like, Bobby, I want splashing kink. It's like, what is it?
Playing with food.
Oh, okay.
During sex. Like it's a whole kink. There are some people that are stimulated only by that. Maybe they want to try cross-dressing. Maybe they want to try 69, like for people that haven't done it for a long time. Maybe they want you to role play with them. Maybe they want you to wear certain lingerie or certain outfit like leather. And maybe they want you to whip them. Maybe they want to try having a threesome. Maybe they want to visit a sex club. Like not having sex with other people, but maybe they want to visit a sex club just to see what it's like. But they're just too afraid to share because they don't want to be judged and they don't want to rock the boat.
Right. So open up a safe space. You're with someone.
So important.
And that's ending the stigma around. And that is a big thing. I mean, there's a lot of things I have not explored, but I also don't judge anyone who who cares? Who cares?
Who cares? Yeah. I know. If someone likes piss, I'm like, I don't care. Yeah. To each their own, like I don't do it, but I think that it's cool that you like it.
Oh my God, that's making me laugh. Again, Dad, I hope you're not this far. But yeah, when I lived in Hollywood in my late teens, someone was like, will you pee on me? I was like, excuse me?
Did you?
Like, no. But you go.
There's research that there's 5-year hump and 10-year hump. You've been together 11 years, so you're past 10-year hump. You did not get a divorce, so you're here.
No, well, we've been together 11 and a half. We have been married now 8 years, but we had a 7-year little.
Yeah.
We had a 7-year.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is that?
My job is normalizing that everybody does, and that's okay.
Well, yeah. And there's a lot of our friends now too who are our age and they're at that 7-year and they're actually going through with divorce. Which, I mean, everyone has their own circumstance and such.
And it might not be a sex issue, right? But maybe sex issue is a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we made it through that. We went to therapy.
Yeah.
We talked about sex. We talked about this. And we really, I wouldn't want to be with anyone else.
Yeah.
And he is my partner and we went through that. And we, I think it's important individually for couples to go through therapy too, and then be very open. It's, to have those uncomfortable conversations. And you're challenging me this weekend in Palm Springs.
Yes. Okay. One last thing that I want you to try. Men are very visual. Research found that when it comes to, this is a different topic, but when it comes to sexting, men are a lot more visual than women. Women like stories or text messages that are cute and sexy and something that communicates they want you. Men want pictures.
Okay.
They're just visual.
What about women who perhaps maybe are feeling insecure about their bodies during any kind of intimacy?
I did a big research with over 1,000 participants in my survey, and that is the number one issue for women, is body image issue. A couple of practices that I've been doing that really, really helped me throughout the years are, number one is sexual meditation.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you what that is.
Number two is positive sexual affirmations.
Okay.
And then number three is journaling, writing, put it pen to paper. I love my body. I am attractive. And that is very basic positive psychology that lots of studies show, journaling and writing things down really help cement that belief in your brain. So I've done all of these for many years and it really helps me.
It's so interesting because everyone's like, oh, just journaling, write it down, this and that. And people joke. They're like, I don't need to write something down, but it works.
It works. It's a method and it's been studied. Who are you to say it doesn't work if you haven't tried?
Literally, Friday is my 43rd birthday. And what am I doing tonight when I get back to my hotel room? I'm journaling and setting goals.
Yes.
And some of my goals include my sexual intimacy with my husband.
Yes.
And this, because why not? We have this fabulous life and
I love that for you.
Yeah.
I love that you're including a sex goal in your journal.
Yeah. So sexual meditation, let's talk more about that.
I do it every day. If I have time and I'm not rushing, I do a 10-minute one. If I'm rushing, I do a 5-minute one, but I do it daily. Sexual meditation is like a regular meditation practice, but it focuses on sexual thoughts, feelings, and sensations in your body. And you can do it quietly by thinking of like positive sexual experience, or by visually, like by touching your body in different areas. Or you can also use guided meditation that I have on YouTube. I know that for a lot of people, meditation is really hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I created these 5-minute and 10-minute guided sexual meditation that you can just follow along.
What's your YouTube?
Luvbites Co.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. LUVBITESCO.
I'll put that in the show notes as well.
Actually, I have a couples one that you and Bobby should do.
Oh, I need to do a follow up with you. I need to take some more notes.
Yes. Feel free to text me, but totally do it together in Palm Springs. Like such a good setting.
Oh, Palm Springs
a
energy.
New thing to try together.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
We can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So what?
So many tasks for Bobby.
I know. I'm like,
he doesn't know yet.
So what do you think the stigma is around, which I think you're great at breaking that, just around even touching yourself or having sexuality, and then, just how it is good to release for your mental health?
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
And there's research that shows that orgasms release oxytocin, and that's like feel good hormones, right? Mm-hmm. The reason why the stigma is so strong is, hundreds of years of conditioning through purity culture and organized religion. In the United States, Christianity is the biggest religion. And a part of the teaching for mainstream Christianity is sex is something that is extremely sacred that you have after you get married to that one person forever. And that's the only script you have as a young adult, right? If you're a Christian. And that goes against all of the sexual satisfaction science. Like, first off, if you don't explore prior, you won't know if you're sexually compatible. So you may have really bad sex issues in your marriage way later. And this is something that you could have prevented by exploring earlier. Secondly, it also taught, if you masturbate, you might go to hell or you might go blind.
That's awful.
Right. Yeah. And I'm not shitting on Christianity, because there are people who are Christians that are sex educators.
Yeah.
They just choose the fun part. They choose the love your neighbor part. They don't choose the blind if you masturbate part. Masturbation is extremely important for many reasons. Here are the main benefits of masturbation. 1, self-esteem. The ability to give yourself pleasure gives you the idea that you are capable. 2, like I said, oxytocin, very natural physiological response of getting an orgasm is oxytocin release and having feel-good hormones, so you can feel good after you masturbate. 3, it allows you to maintain a healthy version of your sexual identity. So when you do engage in sex with a partner, you feel sexual. Because if you haven't never masturbated and you try to have sex with a partner, it might feel disconnected. Like, how can I be sexual, right? What is sexy? Like, you might feel really awkward, maybe anxious. So there's various benefits of masturbating, and you are not going to hell.
I don't have the answer. Maybe not. I have no clue.
But I don't think so. I'm a Buddhist, and I choose to only believe in the fun part and not the hard part.
Yeah. So I have some community questions here.
Okay.
That I posted on Instagram today. So I want to go through some of these. How to manage if someone wants to wait for intimacy and isn't moving as quickly as you may be.
Wait for
intimacy. Someone maybe
like after marriage?
I would assume not after marriage. I would assume
because
I just got married, but we're gonna wait. No, I would assume this is dating, and someone is waiting for sex, but someone else is ready for sex. How do you manage if someone wants to wait for intimacy? I mean, I could answer that.
Right.
respect
Yeah.
them wanting to wait and make sure
Yeah.
you're the right person that they want to have intimacy with. Bam, I'm a sex educator.
Yes.
But
If they communicated their boundaries,
Yeah.
it means that it's an important boundary.
which
and
shows something, a good character to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not to say if you have sex on a first date, you're a bad person. I have sex on a first date, right? It's a choice. Like I said, freedom of choice is why we're here. Is why we're not being oppressed elsewhere. But at the same time, the fact that they communicated their boundary, I think it's the most important is to respect that boundary. But then I don't think it's unfair to ask, like, when do you feel like, when would you feel comfortable exploring even just, second base or even just with other things, like maybe we can make out, maybe we can oral, or even, touching, maybe not penetrative sex if there's something, if you have a certain rule. But at the end of the day, there's also like, you also have to honor your sexual desire.
Yeah.
Because like if the person you're dating is like, oh, I don't have sex until at least a year of dating, decide that for yourself if that's for you. Because maybe this person is not sexually compatible to you. And that's extremely important in a relationship. If you look over sexual compatibility, it will come back and bite you in the ass.
Mhm.
So if they're waiting for so long and that's not how you roll, like that's not the right person for you.
All right. How about, do you think a relationship can be saved after one partner cheats? How can someone mentally move on or trust again?
Ooh.
Have you been with a partner that cheats?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
me
have
too.
done both.
Yeah. Oh,
I have been cheated on, and I have cheated on someone. And I also help a lot of clients through infidelity.
Okay.
Both clients that are just dating and married, long-term relationship with children.
Mhm.
So overcoming a relational transgression like that takes a lot of time. A lot.
What's a lot of time?
Over a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. From what I have observed with clients that have gone through infidelity, over a year, there's still pain in the heart of the person that was cheated on. Like, sometimes it just comes up, right? Like, when my husband leaves for a business trip, now I'm like not sure what he's doing, right? Even though we've been working on fixing that boundary and trust to come back over 12 months, it's still there. It's still going to be there. So I think the realistic expectation is that it won't completely go away, and it can also come back from time to time if there are triggers. Right? Like for example, like if trips are triggers, or if they take their phone to the bathroom is a trigger. Like, so there are triggers that can come back. That is a realistic expectation. Now, can you overcome it? 100%. Have seen lots of couples overcome it, not only in my practice, but in my peers' practices as well. So there's hope. And there are many different tracks that you can go on in order to bring back that trust and intimacy again.
Yeah. And I think if you were just talking about can you heal and trust again, I think we can also move that over, not just into a partner or a sexual relationship and intimacy, but even, there's a lot I've learned in my own world of business and such, when someone betrays you, like it takes time.
It takes a long time.
And you realize that, and you're like, oh, I should just be over this right now. No, okay, let me figure out what are my triggers. Okay, now this is my trigger. How can I work on this? How can I now even go into maybe another business relationship or another thing, like anything, like, really. And I think therapy and working with a coach or it's so important to be able to continue to move on and be happy.
But it's a process, right?
Yeah,
like
it's a process, and that's okay. Like it's a process. You've been hurt, but
it's really sad. It's still like such a prominent issue.
Well, and then again, the friend I was talking to today, and he wasn't, having sex with his wife, and he's like, but I'm not going to cheat on her. Like, I'm not going to. What are tips for this? Just came in my head. Somebody who's like, okay, I'm not having intimacy, but I love my partner so much. I don't want to have infidelity. How do I find that strength because I do not want to break up this marriage. I do not want to break that promise. What are the tips for someone who's got people coming up to them and been like, hey, easy, but they want to stick to that promise of their marriage?
Mindful masturbation.
Okay.
Like people will approach you. You can't control how other people behave. Like, if you're an attractive person and you're maybe out at a gym, a grocery store, a bar, like someone may approach you. You can't control that. However, I think when you do have sexual urges, thinking of like, okay, I'm gonna like go home and like masturbate and kind of get that out of my system. Like I think mindful masturbation can really help like curb that temptation of stepping out of your marriage. But at the same time, you can't wait forever. If your partner refuses to have sex with you, like let's say over a year, this needs an intervention. And this intervention will not come with just the two of you. You need a coach or a therapist or a counselor to help navigate this conversation, because now sex comes with a lot of anxiety and resentment. When there's so much resentment, there's no having easy conversation between the two of you. You need an intervention.
Yeah, no, I agree with that for sure. And do you think there's some sort of people who do go with infidelity, like a insecurity that they need to? Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
I know when I was in my early 20s, when I did it, it definitely came from insecurity. And I'm sharing that now, like as almost like a lesson that I learned, that I did that in order to continuously gain attention from other people, because I had low self-esteem and I had to work on myself, but I neglected that. And I just thought, I'll get it elsewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of people cheat due to their insecurity, but also another really big reason why people cheat is they do not have the communication skills to communicate their sexual desire and just lack of feeling loved by their partner who sexually rejects them over a long time. So yeah, I think if it's a sex issue and they have infidelity, it's very much related to communication. But if it's like someone who is a narcissistic person, who is like a chronic cheater, that's a different story. That's like pathology. Like that's something you need to work on that with like a psychologist.
Yeah. Like, would you say, I'm so interested in narcissistic behavior these days, and I've had a lot of doctors on about that, but would you say if you have a chronic cheater, probably a narcissist?
Oh yeah. I think there's a strong correlation.
Yeah. Yeah. That's for another podcast. We probably have had one. But okay, so I know we need to wrap this up, but where can we find you? And maybe one last tip that anyone needs, maybe not a tip, inspiration about sex.
Ooh, okay. Everyone can find me on my website, luvbites.co. That's LUVBITES.co. My Instagram and TikTok are also luvbites.co. I would say the last thing I want to say on this podcast, and thank you so much for having me. This is so much fun. I love when
and I'm gonna have to check in with you after this weekend.
Please do. You and Bobby. Bring Bobby with you. Yes, I was gonna say like take a selfie together of that bliss after your sessions. The last thing I want to say would be sexual communication is extremely important. Sexual communication is sexual liberation. If you're not able to talk about what you desire, or if you feel anxious about your sex life, or if you feel unloved, if you're not able to talk about these things, you are in a disempowered position. So make sure that you prioritize speaking up and speaking out about this. Yeah.
And as you're saying that, I was thinking also like being kind to your partner when you're like, hey, I really want this, versus we don't have sex anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Never start a conversation with blaming or with anything negative. Start it with a positive and then a suggestion.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for coming on Big Silence.
The Big Silence. The Big Silence. The Big Silence.